Is this the end of Hamas as we speak in the ongoing Israel-Hamas-Palestine war? Has Israel managed to get the biggest war kill right now? Because right now the big international news is the man you're looking at on your screen, Ismail Haniyeh. He was known to be the topmost leader of Hamas that had specifically, remember, had invaded into Israel and the October 7 brutalities that we had seen. Israel had vowed the end of Hamas, and what has happened is, with the information coming in from international news outlets, that Hamas chief Ismail Haniyeh has been killed, and killed in Tehran, in Iran, which is in many ways has also been facing accusations of being the big mastermind of what happened on 7th October. And for this to happen in Tehran, which is a relatively safer territory for Ismail Haniyeh to take shelter, he was all this while, remember, in Qatar. That was hiding him, that was giving him support. But this mystery strike at a house, at an accommodation where Haniyeh was residing, and the visuals on your screen also. These are the latest visual of the house where Ismail Haniyeh was reportedly residing in Tehran, the capital city of Iran, where right now this assassination has taken place. The elimination of Haniyeh, remember, was for Israel the top plan, because he's one of the most senior leaders. In fact, the man who has led Hamas and its war plan against Israel. And for this to happen in Iran is absolutely significant. Now, of course, Israel largely is getting the blame for it, of what unfolded. But what happens here on to the war, to Hamas? Is there an escalation here on? Will Hezbollah aggravate and escalate this more? Or will perhaps the war is now coming to an end? Remember earlier, a few months ago, Haniyeh's sons were also reportedly killed in Gaza, is what we are told. So these are the latest visuals. We are running visuals of Ismail Haniyeh in meetings with Iranian officials. He met also Khamenei about 12 to 13 hours ago. So this is the big news coming in. India Today's Foreign Affairs editor Geeta Mohan joins me for the latest on that. Geeta, so now there's definite confirmations coming in on this, that Ismail Haniyeh has been killed. What do you make of it? How significant is this development?
Well, the Hamas chief being killed on Iranian soil is going to be massive escalation. Expect a response from Iran. This is one of the biggest targets that Israel has got. Remember, he stays in Qatar. He does not stay in Gaza, or for that matter, the West Bank. And it was difficult for the Israelis to really take him down or take him out. And now when he was traveling, in fact, he has traveled in the past as well. When Ibrahim Raisi's funeral was taking place, Ismail Haniyeh was there as well. But it seems like there was a proper planning to ensure that they get Ismail Haniyeh in Tehran with the proper planning on how to take him out where he lives. He was there in the past as well, but they did not attempt an assassination then. Now he finally has been killed on Iranian soil, so this certainly is going to be massive escalation.
Because it's not just about the assassination of Ismail Haniyeh, Geeta, isn't it? It's also about the fact that this happened in Iran, which is relatively a safer territory and in many ways a stronger country. Gaurav Sawant also is joining me. Gaurav, you have reported on this war, and in Israel, when you saw what was happening, Israel's biggest pledge was this: the end of Hamas, the end of Ismail Haniyeh. What do you make of this development? What are the reports that you are picking up?
This is the biggest success for Israeli security forces in its war against Hamas terror after the October 7 terror attack. It's huge. And the fact that he's been taken out in Iran sends out a very strong signal. Do remember that Israel has been accused of carrying out a series of assassinations of Iran's nuclear scientists and those who've been associated with Iran's nuclear weapons program for years and years. For decades, Israel has done that, and Israel has a very deep network of operatives deep inside Iran, those who are opposed to the Khamenei regime or the Islamic regime here. But the fact that Iran was unable to save Ismail Haniyeh when there was a massive threat on his life since October 7th, he used to live, Ismail Haniyeh, the political head of Hamas, someone who's been associated with this organization from his college days. So 1960s onwards, he was someone who was associated with the movement. He studied at the University of Gaza. He studied Arabic literature, became a part of Hamas, headed the Palestinian Authority, became the Prime Minister of Hamas, and despite being removed by the authorities in the West Bank, he remained the head of Gaza before handing over to Yahya Sinwar in 2017. So very, very powerful man, lived a very lavish life in Qatar, was very well protected in Qatar, but he was taken out in Iran. So very planned, very well planned operation. Just 12 hours ago, he met Ayatollah Khamenei, the supreme leader of Iran. He was there for the inauguration of the president of Iran. And just as he got to his house, he was taken out in a raid. It just goes on to show that Israel has actually fulfilled a part of its pledge of neutralizing all threats to Israel, especially the Hamas. They've also taken out one of the senior most Hezbollah commanders in Beirut, Shukr, and that was somebody who was involved in a series of terror attacks, including high precision missile strikes inside Israel. He too has been taken out.
This is absolutely huge, specifically because it's almost going to be a year of this Israel-Hamas war. Gaurav, Geeta, please stay on with me. Shiv Arur also joins us. Shiv, where do you see this going? Because without a doubt, to do this in Iran is another level of operation, and they've managed it successfully. What do you make of this war here on?
There's some piece of the puzzle that appears to be missing to me, Pooja. You know, the fact that Ismail Haniyeh has been assassinated in Iran, and we're talking about the Hamas chief, who, as Gaurav rightly said, is one of the most protected terrorists in the world. You know, he's lived a very lavish and free life in Qatar. You know, he's been in Syria, he's been in Iran. He enjoys the protection of the Iranian Supreme Council. You know, he had the kind of state-level protection that you know, people like Osama bin Laden once had. And yet he was assassinated immediately after the presidential inauguration in Iran. Something in the back of my mind doesn't sit right. You know, is there an Iranian hand in this? Yeah, you know, the skeptic in me is, you know, says this is all looking too neat. 2 points I want to quickly make. One, it's actually amazing that it's taken so long for Israel to bump off Ismail Haniyeh, because remember, it's going to be almost a year since the October 7th attacks, and Ismail Haniyeh has been a very visible terrorist, you know, for the Mossad. So it's actually quite amazing that it's taken this long to get him and kill him. But point number two is, I think Iran isn't showing its hand just yet. You know, I'm sure most experts will jump at me saying, for God's sake, Iran has been the biggest, you know, bankroller, funder, trainer, weaponizer of the Hamas. So, you know, so why would they give him up? I have a feeling that there's some kind of play going on here. You know, where Iran has a hand.
Shiv, do you see that because of the timing that he was in Qatar for the longest time? He's supposed to be, like you're rightly mentioning, has to be the most protected in Iran as well. That's known to be the mastermind of all of this, and yet this happens, of all places, in Tehran.
And remember, the reason why possibly nothing happened to Ismail Haniyeh while he was in Qatar, Pooja, is because there's a huge US presence in Qatar. Qatar is a country that plays a double game. They provided accommodation to a terrorist like Ismail Haniyeh, but they have a US base on their soil. And therefore, that kind of geopolitical complexity meant that Israel couldn't have mounted perhaps an assassination you know, bid on this terrorist on Qatari soil. But the moment he goes to Iran, suddenly he's vulnerable. Remember, Iran is a full-fledged enemy of Israel. Their defenses couldn't be more up when it comes to Israel. Iran is a country that has launched direct attacks on Israel. Their proxies have launched missiles via the Houthis or the Hezbollah, actual missile attacks, not terrorist attacks, but actual conventional weapon attacks on Israeli cities and assets. And therefore, for Ismail Haniyeh to be bumped off in a what seems to be a pretty rudimentary raid on his residence, for God's sake, which should be the most protected place in the heart of Tehran, VVIP Tehran, after a presidential inauguration. And Ismail Haniyeh, as Gaurav will explain to you, has all kinds of concentric circles of protection, Pooja, including personal protection of the level of the SPG and beyond, like a secret service almost. And for him to be assassinated so easily, there's something missing, and it's at the back of my mind, but I think the story picture.
Well, one never really knows what goes on in these global conflicts, and of course a lot of questions unanswered. Remember, it also speaks and how about Israel to be managing it, because Israel is getting the blame for it. To be actually, if there is the involvement in Tehran, Iran to manage this successfully. I request Gaurav Sawant, Shiv Arur, Geeta to please stay on. Remember that Shiv, Gaurav have reported also from Israel. They've reported on this war from the front line, so they understand what's going to happen next and what this means. Ismail Haniyeh has been killed with his bodyguard in Tehran, of all places. All this while he was in Qatar.